The waitress lifted a single saffron thread to her lips, and the entire dinner party froze.
That bleeding red, it's wrong. Dyed.
Hassan al-Mansour's smug grin curdled. His $80,000 per kilo saffron had just been called a fake by a waitress 6 hours earlier. That same dining room had shimmered with arrogance. Hassan had invited Dubai's elite to witness the purest Persian sargal money could buy.
Not a single grain of adulteration. If any of you can prove otherwise, I will triple my donation to your favorite charity.
At the service sideboard, Sophia Karimi refilled tea with steady hands, but her eyes kept flicking to the silver saffron tin.
The threads are too bright, and that instant red stain on the tongs, that's not sargal.
Sargol means top of the flower. Only the richest stigmas, hand-harvested at dawn. You are breathing history tonight.
Sophia's jaw tightened. Her grandmother had taught her that true sargal releases its color slowly, with a bitter bite. This saffron screamed of cheap dye. One guest, a French fragrance baron, held a saffron thread to his jeweler's loop. His silence pointed.
Monsieur, your face betrays you. You think this is not pure sargol? Test it yourself. I welcome the scrutiny.
The baron simply shook his head and set the thread down. The red dye had already stained his fingertip.
Her supervisor's grip tightened on her elbow. The words hissed in her memory. Stay invisible. Karimi, you are here to pour tea, not contradict billionaires. But the metallic aftertaste from the single thread she'd glimpsed earlier burned in her throat. Grandmother's fields, the care, the truth, all mocked by that bright red lie.
Hassan poured a cascade of saffron threads into a crystal bowl, the strands catching the chandelier light like artificial rubies.
True sargal floats before it sinks. These dyed safflower threads are weighted with sugar to mimic the curl, and the red spears out instantly.
You see the color release, that is proof of potency. The ignorant mistake speed for dilution. Only the finest sargol bleeds so brilliantly.
Around the teapot's handle, Sophia's knuckles had gone white.
If no one else will speak, but one word costs my job, my family's rent, can I let this go?
Hassan caught the fierce certainty in the waitress's eyes and mistook it for rapt admiration.
You, the server with the burning stare, you've been eyeing my saffron all night. Come, appreciate it. Touch a thread.
A ripple of laughter circled the table. The idea of a waitress judging $80,000 saffron amused the guests.
They're laughing at me, but suddenly all I hear is grandmother's voice teaching me to taste the truth.
A memory flickered. A sun-bleached field in Khorasan. Her grandmother Nazrin, hands full of purple crocuses, teaching a young girl.
The tongue never lies, Sophia. True sargol will bite the back of your throat. A fake one tastes of sugar and regret.
Now I have to use her lesson. One thread on my tongue, and I'll know.
Sophia stepped forward. The laughter died. She picked up a single thread with a steadiness that silenced the room.
Forgive me, grandmother, if I am wrong, but I can't let this lie pass.
She lifted the saffron thread to her lips. The room held a single, collective breath. Sophia closed her eyes. The thread dissolved on her tongue, and the taste hit her like a chemical scream.
No bitter picrocrossen, no earthy bloom, just metallic sweet and the sting of cheap dye. Safflower and gardenia. This is dyed safflower and gardenia. Not Persian sargol. Not even real saffron.
Hassan's face froze mid-expression. The smug grin hadn't just vanished. It had been slapped off by a waitress's quiet words. Gasps broke around the table. A crystal glass tipped and shattered, but no one looked away from Sophia. Before Hassan could erupt, the double doors swung open. A man in a tailored charcoal suit strode in, a thin smile fixed on his lips.
Cousin, I heard you were unveiling the new shipment. I had to see the faces on your guests. They look surprised.
The smile doesn't reach his eyes. He already knows what I've found.
Kamal's gaze swept the table and landed on the silver saffron tin. His smile tightened almost imperceptibly.
I see our waitress has strong opinions. But unless she has laboratory proof, let's not ruin the evening over a server's untrained palate.
Hassan's voice cut through the murmurs, low and dangerous.
Proof. Now, you've insulted my table, my guest, my product, so give me proof.
Real Sargol releases its color slowly. It tastes bitter, stains yellow. A fake bleeds red instantly, and tastes of sugar. Bring me a glass of water.
A servant rushed a glass. Sophia lifted another thread from the tin and held it like a fuse. The thread touched the water. Instantly, a crimson cloud billowed out, streaking the water like a bloodstain. No real saffron behaves that way. Hassan lurched forward, his reflection shaking in the ruby-tinged glass. The proof was undeniable.
A bad batch. It happens. I'll investigate the supplier immediately. This cannot be the shipment I authorized.
He's lying. The sugar weighting, the dye profile, it's exactly the same recipe that destroyed my grandmother's cooperative.
The guests began to whisper, their faith in the billionaire's word cracking like old porcelain. Hassan stood frozen between his cousin's smooth denial and the waitress's damning demonstration. The dinner was over. The mystery was just beginning. Hassan stepped forward, ignoring the scattered glass and the guests' stares, his focus narrowing on his cousin.
Who is the supplier, Kamal? A name, now? I want to know whose hands touched this filth.
A middleman. I barely know the operation. I'll handle it quietly. No need to escalate. Trust me, cousin.
7 years ago, a flood of cheap saffron with exactly this sweetness and dye destroyed my grandmother's cooperative in Khorasan. The same recipe.
Kamal's jaw tightened. For an instant, the polished smile cracked, and a flicker of recognition crossed his face. Hassan noticed. He pulled out his phone and dialed his head of logistics.
Trace the saffron shipment back to its first handler. Pull every record, every transaction. I want the full chain by sunrise.
The dinner guests began filing out into the marble foyer, murmuring about the shattered evening and the waitress who had unmasked a billionaire's treasure. Kamal lingered, his hand on Hassan's shoulder, his voice dropping to a whisper heavy with unspoken threat. But Hassan was already past listening. The investigation had begun, and the fragile bond of blood was about to be tested. By 2 in the morning, the logistics files arrived. The shipment's chain tightened around a single name, Kamal Al-Mansour, primary supplier. Oceanic Imports, a subsidiary of Al-Mansour Holdings, directed by K. Al-Mansour. Hassan summoned his cousin to the private study, the walls lined with the history they shared.
You dragged me here over a supplier mix-up. I told you, I'll handle it. Trust me.
Oceanic Imports is yours. The dye, the sugar, this wasn't a mistake, was it?
One batch. I cut a corner once. I was desperate to meet a deadline. I'll make it right, I swear.
Across town, Sophia's phone buzzed. Her grandmother's face appeared on the screen, fragile but urgent.
A trader named Al-Mansour came, offered to buy us. When we refused, the fake saffron flooded our market. I remember.
So it was planned. The Al-Mansour family didn't just profit from our ruin, they caused it.
In the silent study, Hassan stared at his cousin and for the first time saw a stranger wearing a familiar face. Kamal made one last desperate play. He cornered Sophia in the staff garage, an envelope thick with cash.
50,000. Take it. Your family can start over. No one needs to know about the saffron.
Sophia stared at the envelope. Then, with deliberate slowness, she tore it in half, the notes fluttering to the concrete.
My grandmother's fields aren't for sale, and your shame is about to be public.
She raised her phone. The screen gleamed with a recording already in progress. Kamal's face drained of color. An hour later, Hassan listened to the recording in his office, his hands trembling on the desk.
You tried to bribe her. After everything you've done, leave. You are no longer welcome under this roof.
If you expose me, I'll release the old settlement records. Your father's deals weren't clean. Think of the family legacy.
Hassan's face turned to ice. The threat was real, but the betrayal was worse. The stalemate was set, justice versus legacy. One wrong move, and everything the Al-Mansours built would burn. His forensic team worked through the night. The audit uncovered a web of shell companies and falsified customs forms stretching back a decade.
600 shipments, every one replaced with dyed safflower. 40 million embezzled from my own company.
But it was a single memo from 7 years ago that stopped his breath. Karimi Cooperative. Acquisition failed. Proceed with market saturation using counterfeit product. K. Hassan lowered the paper. The woman whose grandmother's fields were salted with fake saffron was the same woman, blackmailed by his own blood.
Sophia, it was him. He targeted your cooperative on purpose. I have proof.
You are telling me your family destroyed mine, and now you want to help?
I am telling you, I will burn my own legacy to fix this. Meet me at your grandmother's cooperative tomorrow.
He hung up, and for the first time in years, Hassan al-Mansour prayed not for success, but for the courage to do what was right. The documents were locked in a safe. The next move would either heal a wound 7 years deep, or tear his family apart forever. The next morning, Sophia stood before the rusted chain of her grandmother's cooperative. The fields behind it cracked and barren.
It's worse than I remembered. Grandmother, how did you survive this?
Hope dried slower than the soil, but the farmers who stayed, they still dream of purple flowers.
A black sedan pulled up. Hassan stepped out, his white Kandura a stark contrast against the dust.
Every meter of this dead earth is my family's shame. I swear, I will make it bloom again.
He pressed a heavy envelope into Nasrin's hands. Not charity. The first payment of restitution.
This won't bring back the lost years, but my Sophia, she can finally stop fighting alone.
She sees the truth in his eyes. He isn't just fixing a scandal, he's mending a soul.
Under the rusted cooperative sign, they formed an unlikely pact. A billionaire, a waitress, and her grandmother. But Kamal's blackmail still hung in the air. The road ahead would demand a public sacrifice, and the clock was ticking. Within hours, Kamal had fed a false story to 2 tabloids. A waitress had tried to blackmail the Al-Mansour family during a private dinner. Sophia's phone lit up. Waitress implicated in blackmail scandal against Billionaire. Her employer called before she could finish reading. The voice was cold.
It's a lie. I have proof they sold fake saffron. I never asked for money.
Hassan saw the article, and his blood ran cold. Kamal had crossed a line there was no returning from.
So he chooses public war. Then I will give the world the truth it deserves.
He called his assistant. A press conference was scheduled for 10 the next morning. That night, his 2 sons came to the study, pleading with him to settle the matter privately.
The name Al-Mansour will stand for honesty, not blackmail. I will not be silent.
His final message to Sophia read, "Meet me at headquarters tomorrow. Your truth will finally be heard." The press conference hall bristled with reporters. Cameras flashed as Hassan al-Mansour stepped to the podium, a thick file under his arm.
What I am about to share is deeply painful. My own blood defrauded this company and poisoned a family's legacy with dyed safflower.
He held up the memo ordering the destruction of the Karimi Cooperative, then played Sophia's recording through the hall's speakers. Sophia's voice filled the room. 50,000. Take it. Then Kamal's oily reply, now an unforgivable confession. Kamal shot to his feet, his face white. Security guards closed in as Hassan silenced him with a raised hand.
You are fired, Kamal, stripped of every role. The authorities are already reviewing the file for criminal charges.
Security grasped Kamal's arms. He twisted, snarling at the cameras. His polished mask shattered forever.
Sophia Karimi, the waitress who tasted a single thread, revealed a truth that saved this company's honor.
She walked out, shoulders squared, eyes glistening, as the hall erupted in a thunderstorm of applause and camera flashes.
Al-Mansour Industries will sign a direct contract with the Karimi Cooperative. We will replant every field we helped destroy.
Days after the press conference, Hassan's legal team arrived in Khorasan with a 10-year contract and a check for $10 million.
This agreement names the Karimi Cooperative as sole supplier and Sophia Karimi as global quality director.
Sophia stared at the page, her name printed beside a title she never imagined.
From serving tea to protecting the purest saffron in the world. Grandmother, I wish you could see this.
She signed, the pen moving with the weight of 7 lost years. At the rusted gate, Nazrin cut a red ribbon. Farmers who had waited years wept and cheered as the banner unfurled.
We open this gate not just for Saffron, but for every family that refused to give up.
Hassan watched her trembling hands, the envelope of restitution now replaced by a permanent partnership.
This is not charity, it's correction, and I will personally ensure every thread is real.
Sophia pinned the cooperative's logo onto her jacket, a crocus flower with the word truth beneath it. Within months, Nazrin's hands were in the soil again, pressing high-grade corms into irrigated rows. The first green shoots broke through. By mid-season, the fields blazed purple as far as the mountains. Nazrin taught the village girls to separate stigmas just as she had once taught Sophia, their laughter returning to the workshop.
A thread that breaks is worthless. Patience, little ones, Saffron does not hurry.
Sophia built a testing lab in a refurbished storage room, installing microscopes and QR-coded batch logs.
Every batch will carry a QR code. Scan it, and you'll see the field, the picker, and the test results. No more forgery.
At dusk, Sophia walked the blooming rows. Running her fingers over the purple petals, the land felt alive again. The first small harvest arrived. Hassan watched as Sophia dropped a thread into a glass of water. 30 minutes passed before a golden hue slowly bled out. No crimson. The laboratory grade came back. ISO 3632-1, highest possible. The Thread of Truth campaign launched globally. In every ad, a single drop of water turned gold. Never read again. At a board meeting, broadcasted live, Hassan named Sophia Global Quality Director for all Al Mansour Foods.
From a single thread on your tongue to safeguarding a billion-dollar supply chain, this is earned.
The cooperative Saffron now graced the shelves of the world's most exclusive grocers, a symbol of reclaimed purity. At the International Food Expo, Sophia took the main stage with a glass of water and a single crimson strand.
Real Sargol releases its color slowly. If it turns red instantly, you are being robbed.
Prestigious chefs lined up at the cooperative's booth, placing orders that would secure the future for years. Nazrin, now confined to a wheelchair, was pushed into the lab by her granddaughter. She stopped before a framed poster.
That's you, my flower, the thread that changed everything.
She traced the portrait with trembling fingers, tears spilling onto the paper. A single crocus bloom, its 3 red stigmas perfect, held the frame. The purest things always begin with a single thread, and the courage to speak its truth. Kamal al-Mansour's trial lasted 6 days. The jury took 2 hours to convict on all counts of fraud and embezzlement. The judge cited the deliberate destruction of the Karimi Cooperative, sentencing him to 12 years without parole. In his cell, Kamal stared at his open palm. A single dyed saffron thread, a twisted souvenir, still clung to his skin. No more silk suits, no more charming smiles, only the red thread that mocked what he could have been. Meanwhile, the cooperative's saffron was boxed in elegant packaging, a small card tucked inside each one. From Khorasan with Truth. In a quiet demonstration, Sophia dropped a thread from the new harvest into a glass of water. For 30 minutes, the camera captured every second. No crimson spilled. Only a slow, luminous gold bloomed. This was the real Sargol that Kamal's greed tried to erase. The water told a story no chemical test could deny. The thread that had exposed a lie now bound a legacy. Truth, it turned out, was the rarest spice of all. Dawn broke over the saffron fields, painting the purple rose in pale gold. Sophia pushed Nazrin's chair slowly. The old woman wrapped in a blanket against the morning chill. They paused, where the first crocuses had been planted. Now a sea of nodding blooms. Nasrin lifted a trembling hand and pointed to a single flower, its 3 red stigmas aflame in the light. She took Sophia's hand and pressed it gently against her own heart. No words needed.
You taught me that a single thread can hold the truth of an entire field.
The camera moved in until the crocus filled the frame, its red threads perfect and still. In that quiet moment, the circle closed. From a single thread in a billionaire's hand to a single thread that healed a village. The purest things always begin with a single thread, and the courage to speak its truth fade to black. The credits began to roll over images of the cooperative reborn. Nasrin taught the village children to separate the crimson stigmas, just as she had once taught Sophia. Hassan visited the cooperative as a friend, not a benefactor, sharing tea with farmers on a low stone wall. Sophia, in her white lab coat, peered through a magnifying glass at a single saffron thread, ensuring its perfection. Together, Sophia and Nasrin stitched a new cooperative banner, their needles threading through the fabric like saffron through water. Each jar of Karimi saffron shipped with a promise, a QR code linking to the field, the picker, and the purity test. Hassan never spoke of his cousin again, but the open fields were his silent answer to betrayal. Nasrin passed her last years in the fields she loved, her hands perpetually stained with the golden dust of real saffron. The crocus that had witnessed a fraud became the emblem of a movement. On screen, the final words, Karimi Cooperative, harvesting truth. The saffron fields of the Karimi Cooperative stretched to the horizon, a purple testament to a truth once silenced. Sophia now stood where she once only served. At international summits, she taught the world of the water test.
A single drop of water can expose a lie, and a single thread can restore a legacy.
In the lab, new analysts learned to identify true sargol, the slow golden infusion, the bitter bite of picrocrocin. Every batch was numbered, photographed, and traceable to the exact row where Nasrin's hands had first pressed the corms. The cooperative's packaging carried an image of a single thread dissolving into gold. No red, no dye, no compromise. The very test that had demolished a fraud became the trademark of purity, emulated by honest growers everywhere. Sophia would sometimes pause at dawn, a single thread on her tongue, and remember the moment that set everything in motion. The thread that had spoken the truth in a billionaire's dining room now echoed in kitchens, labs, and fields across continents. From Khorasan with truth. Indeed, the purest spice had finally reclaimed its honor. Years later, the field still bloomed. A new generation walked the rows, fingers gently plucking the purple flowers at dawn. Nasrin had passed peacefully the previous spring, but her voice still echoed in the workshop, in every careful separation of stigmas. Sophia kept her grandmother's favorite crocus pressed inside the lab's founding document, a silent guardian over every quality report. Hassan, now older and white-bearded, still visited the cooperative on harvest morning. He would stand at the edge of the field, wordless, taking in the purple. A young girl, the daughter of a farmer, held up a single crocus to Sophia. The child's smile was the only benediction anyone needed.
Grandmother, the fields are clean. No dye, no lies, just the truth you planted.
The crocus trembled in the breeze. Its 3 red stigmas, perfect and undamaged, caught the first light of day. And in that fragile thread of crimson, the entire story was held. A single taste, a single test, a single test, a single life changed. The purest things always begin with a single thread, and the courage to speak its truth. From Khorasan with truth, always. The saffron fields of Khorasan needed no monument. Their purple bloom was testament enough. In the cooperative's tasting room, a single thread still taught the lesson that had changed everything. A new generation of girls learned to separate stigmas with the same patience Nasrin had taught, and a child would still hold up a freshly plucked crocus to the morning sun, eyes full of wonder. The crocus that had witnessed a fraud became the emblem of an unbreakable truth. In the quiet of 1,000 dawns, the fields answered every question with a single color, gold, And in every glass of water, tested across the globe, the same slow, honest bloom of real Sargol proved that purity had finally won from Khorasan with truth. That single thread held the courage of a waitress, the wisdom of a grandmother, and the repentance of a billionaire. And in the end, it was not the wealth or the scandal that endured, but the thread itself, the one that had tasted of truth. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share, so more people can learn the power of a single thread. In the cooperative's tasting room, visitors still witness the famous water test. A thread, a glass, a story. The thread touches the water. No crimson bleeds. Instead, a gentle gold unfurls like a sunrise, captured in a drop. Nasrin's voice still echoes in the workshop. A thread that breaks is worthless. Patience, little ones. Saffron does not hurry. Sophia, her dark hair now streaked with gray, walks the rows at dawn, her grandmother's old prayer on her lips. Hassan, aged and at peace, watches from the old stone wall, his heart finally free of the guilt that once bound him. The scandal of the Al Mansours is now a footnote. The cooperative's rebirth is the true headline. A young child still holds a freshly plucked crocus to the sun, and in her smile lives the entire story. And the thread that once screamed of die now whispers only of truth. From Khorasan with truth. Always.